right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our Mount Perrin podcast, From the Mount. I am Steve Kyle, currently the host of From the Mount podcast. With me, as usual, I think so far for every podcast, Miss Viola Lucier.
Hello, everyone.
Glad to have you with us, Viola.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and maybe some people are here because you're here, Viola. They follow you on social media. They're connected. 17 people, I think, follow you, and so
I should have some merchandise.
You should. So we have joining us Selena Chancy, who currently serves as our head volleyball coach here at Mount Perrin, also teaches, Selena, I'm going to have kind of let you share what you teach here. And I'm going to go through some quick, too much really. We could do the whole podcast to your record and what you've accomplished. We're not going to do that. But Selena, thank you for joining us on the podcast. So real quick, though, tell everyone who might be listening what else you do besides those who might know you just in volleyball.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Steve. So in addition to volleyball, I currently teach in the English department in the high school. This year, I'm teaching 10th pre-AP and 11th American Literature. I also have 3 babies who attend school here. So I have a middle schooler, a lower schooler, and a preschooler. And I've done some other little jobs. I've coached middle school track. I've coached middle school soccer. I used to run the clock for the basketball games. I used to work in summer camps, but now I'm focused on coaching volleyball and teaching English.
Yes. And like that's, that sounds just easy after that. She's like, oh yeah, that I'm just focusing on being a, back-to-back state champion volleyball coach.
No big deal.
And
I think it's really important to note before we get into your bio that Selena, you are a phenomenal teacher in the classroom. So if you are listening to this, it is super common sometimes in schools where they hire a coach first and then they're like, oh yeah, P.S., can you also teach this other thing? I don't think it's mutually exclusive with you. I mean, you are an amazing, amazing and knowledgeable teacher. You connect with a lot of kids on different levels that I think a lot of other teachers can't connect with them. And then I think it's just really fun that you have brought out some great skills in some students who I never would have thought would have ever loved to play volleyball, but they ended up loving it and sticking with it. So
that's awesome. I think did you have one of my children?
I sure did.
You did. I know you coached.
I taught both girls, actually.
Oh, did you? Oh, see, yep. I didn't realize. So sadly, I've never been in your classroom officially to watch you teach, but both my girls loved you. And so that's great. I think that is important too. And of course, I mentioned her kind of bio a little bit, and I know no coach or individual probably likes to. I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that keep reading, but you don't seem like you're that person. But I think it's really important because, I want people that may not know you to know, okay, we're not talking about, and not that there's not, we're talking about a high level.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Very successful. And as you told me, not always successful, maybe early on, but volleyball coach. So just a few things, she already mentioned she's the mom to 3 amazing children who are right here at Mount Perrin, active in her church. She has coached volleyball. I think your whole career has been here in coaching at the school level. And this upcoming year will be 12 years, correct?
Wow, you've looked 12.
Volleyball. 12 years of coaching volleyball right here at Mount Perrin. So a few things here. Her current record, and again, it sounds like a lot of losses until you hear how many wins, and I think most of them have been recent. But her total wins are 383 wins. I mean, that's a lot of wins over 11 years. Mm-hmm. If you do the math, that's a lot of volleyball to 150 or so losses. So when you do the math on that, that's I don't know, is that quite a 700 winning percentage? Did you do the math on? I don't know. It's close to that, which is, well, I've no coaches with under 500 levels. You know what I mean?
Easily.
So it easily is. And so lots of stuff when it comes to Cobb County champ back in 2018 and 21, state runner up in 2017, 5-time region champs. That was 15, 16, 17, 18, 21, coach of the year in double and single A, I think. And then also the Marietta Daily Journal Coach of the Year in 2018 and 21, back-to-back state champs, but I think a 3-time state champion.
Yes.
So you won it, I think, 3 years ago.
2018.
2018, and then 21, and now 22. And and again, my daughter had the privilege of for full disclosure, playing for Coach Chancy. She loved it, and she was the recipient of one of those state championships. And so she had that awesome privilege to play under you. And I can speak for her to say, I think she's a better individual because of it. I mean, so many areas she excels in, and I think a big part of that is because of the expectations placed on her as an athlete that played for you. Because I think it was other than middle school, it's her only varsity sport that she played was volleyball. And the only one she was passionate about. And so, all right, so that's a little bit about here. It's a pretty good bio. I would take it. But so obviously a big part of this podcast is we're talking about lots of different things. And so one, I want to just kind of throw out to you, what you coach volleyball. It's the only sport you've ever coached?
I coached soccer and track.
Okay, so you stuck with volleyball. Why? What brought you into coaching and volleyball specifically, and what keeps you doing it year after year?
Well, I played volleyball starting in middle school, and about the time I was a freshman or sophomore, I realized it was the sport I wanted to focus on. I'd played soccer for 10 years and realized volleyball has less running, so it was more appealing to me. And then I played in college at Kennesaw State, which is what brought me to Georgia. I really didn't plan to coach as a career. I coached club for a couple of years with a club that no longer exists, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then as I was getting ready to graduate college, I was trying to find a teaching job. And I believe that Mitch Jordan, our athletic director, reached out to the head volleyball coach at Kennesaw State, just kind of saying, hey, we're looking for a volleyball coach. Do you have anyone graduating who might be interested? So she contacted me. So I came over for an interview. And at the time, there really wasn't a teaching position, but there was a volleyball coaching, summer camps directing, other kind of mixed bag of things position available. And so I took that job and I really fell in love with volleyball, I think, coaching here, because I'd never really experienced such great support from parents, from the players themselves, just being completely bought in and so sweet. And so year after year, I think I fell in love with it more. And when I first started, the program was relatively new. There weren't that many girls in it. In fact, I don't know that I even had to make any cuts my first few years. I was kind of begging girls to play just to have a full varsity and JV team. And obviously that's just grown and progressed over the years.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so
with a robust middle school program too.
Yes.
I mean, middle school A and B. And I mean, you have girls that are really bought into the program.
did you just jump right into varsity?
Yes.
So your first, it was just like, hey, you got it. It's all you.
Yes.
Yeah. And just out of college, I have to imagine you're like, hey, I'm like just a couple years older than you. No, we can't be friends. You're my, my. So that always has, of course, no doubt challenges. And so, and here you sit now 12 years later. And did you think, hey, 12 years from now, I'm going to still be doing this? Or did you even think about that aspect at the time?
I don't think so. I think it was very much just year by year. I definitely never dreamed that 12 years later we would have 3 state championships looking back. I mean, that was my goal. I was never on a championship level team as a player. And I used to always joke, like, I never really dreamt about like a big wedding and a big wedding ring, but I always dreamed about a championship ring. And I just remember that first one I got, I was like, it's here, this happened.
And now you have 3.
Yeah.
Which one's your favorite and why?
Well, we don't have the new one yet, but I think that one's going to be the prettiest to look at. But I think the first one will always be my favorite, just because it truly was
the first.
Yeah, the first. And that group of girls, I mean, truly on paper, not necessarily the most talented, the most incredible players individually, but I think that's what made it such a great team.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those that are listening that may not be familiar and have seen as much, I mean, even though I think those early years of the first 2 were single A private, this is top level. I mean, we're not talking about competition where it's just like, we're playing other schools who might have kids who just wandered onto a volleyball court and these are all club travel players. These are, this is a level of volleyball that's, a ton of fun to watch, but it's also high level volleyball. People come in like, okay.
But you've also beat 5A, 6A, 7A schools as well.
Oh, regularly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's,
No big deal.
Yeah. I mean, we expect, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, really this year, the only two teams we lost to in Georgia, we lost to the very first week of our season. And one went on to be the 6 or 7A state champion, and the other one went on to be the 5A state champion. So.
Yeah. So if you're going to lose, those are, I mean, we'll accept those.
Yes.
We'll take it. So in this time, you found, of course, obviously coaching has highs and lows and challenges. What do you find first? What is your, and again, what gets you coming back? At the end of every year, you can say, listen, I'm back to back. Like now's the time. You know, like Tom Brady maybe should have done this, but he's still playing, and now he's.
You are not the Tom
I'm not quite as old as Tom Brady.
What? No, you've got a long way to go. But I'm saying you're at the top, really, when you consider a single A and now a double A state championship. Like what is it that keeps you coming back every year? Like I have the opportunity, I could just be a teacher. I could but man, I what is it that kind of keeps you coming back?
I just love working with the girls. I actually often think like, okay, which class of girls would I feel like I could sort of retire with? And as soon as I have, there's been 2 or 3 maybe that I've identified, and then a new class comes in and I'm like, well, I got to wait till their class is over. And I just love that they all are so bought into our whole athletic program, kind of what we stand for beyond just the sport. It's obviously so fun because it's such high level. In fact, I still play once a week in a league, and I just reached out to one of the girls and I was like, I want you to know that your level of play actually inspires me as a player, because you do things on the court that I never really had seen before that I'm trying to add to my game. And it's like full circle, and that's so fun.
Yeah. Awesome. That is. And then what, obviously coaches, and I've coached, for years I coached, but not volleyball, forever volleyball. But I know there are every year we face, and I don't know, maybe in 12 years you've seen those challenges change. But what are some of the things that, hey, if I'm a young coach starting out, or what are the things that you give that challenge you, that you have, that require great patience or discipline or overcoming? What are some of those things in volleyball specifically?
Well, the hardest thing is managing, being a mom and a wife, and then doing this because it takes so much of my time. And, my husband always jokes he loses me for 4 months because I pour into it. But I think sometimes the greatest challenge is getting the girls who may not be starters or play much on the court to truly believe that they're still valuable and still play such an important role, even if people in the stands don't see them on the court, getting the kills, getting the aces. I know as a coach that our practices wouldn't be as intense without them, that there might be something intangible like the way they cheer and support their teammates, and just getting them to believe that we really care about them as coaches, because it breaks my heart when I hear that a girl feels like she didn't contribute or she doesn't matter. And, I'm trying to show her how much she does. I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
Wow. That's actually a lesson right there.
And I know that you and I have had conversations on the side just about how you've wanted to keep certain people because of the way that they bring the team together.
Yes.
Or really, again, not the athletic perspective, but more that like social and like spiritual perspective.
Yes.
That there's a gelling there that otherwise wouldn't be there if you didn't keep them.
Absolutely.
So I think that's why it's really important for kids to know you don't have to be the best of the best to try out for these teams. Sometimes you just have to be yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. It just follows. So I love that. I think you do a great job of that.
Thank you.
There are a lot of people who purposefully cut that out or just only take based off of talent.
Right.
Yeah. So we were talking before, and you brought up something before we went on to record this about the coachability part of that.
Yeah, that was, I think, my favorite story. You had you'd mentioned a girl who, yes, she's a super athletic, wonderful young lady, but you had talked about just the coachability that she had. So in thinking about this and raising 2 athletes of my own, what does coachability mean? Because I think what parents think it means is not what it actually means in a coach's eyes.
Yes. So the one I was thinking about in particular, and I mean, this is true of most of my players, I'd say, which is part of what why my job is so awesome, because I do have really coachable girls. But it's one thing to just be naturally athletic, but a lot of times you see naturally athletic kids not give 100% effort because they think I can get away with giving minimal effort or giving, 80% effort. But when there is a child who truly walks in the gym every single day and wants to be better, asks for feedback, asks to stay after practice, listens intently to the feedback given, even if it's something that maybe goes against what a coach in the past has taught, but it's just a new perspective, it's something new, and you just see that person truly day in, day out putting in that effort, knowing that person is maybe the quickest on the court. So maybe she could slack on how quick she's doing sprints or how high she's jumping, but never does. Always finishes first, always pushes others to kind of catch up to her. That's coachable. Another big thing is just playing the role the team needs. Volleyball is kind of a specific position sport, but you can only have so many people in each position. And at least at a school, you don't, at a high school, you're not recruiting positions. You're not necessarily trying out for positions. And so there's a girl even currently who plays a particular position year round, but we have a lot of girls in that position. And she's just done a phenomenal job of stepping into the position we need for the team and doing it, humbly, even though she doesn't maybe get as much recognition or praise. She does it because it's what's best for the team. And so that coachable aspect to say, what do you need me to do, and show up and do it each day, I think is just huge.
Well, and the big thing is, I would say, aside from football and wrestling, really students are getting recruited by their club or travel or, whatever year-round teams. But it really, really fries my chicken or bakes my cookies when students don't want to share that talent with their school, because you don't play at four-year school just for the sake of getting recruited. That's not what this is about. This is about taking your talent and unifying a group of girls who are on all different spectrums and becoming the best that y'all can be. And so I think that that's really important to note, because I've had that happen where it's like, well, my daughter only plays this spot. Well, I'm going to need her to play this spot, okay? Because I've already got 3 more in this who are actually better. So we've got to have that depth. And I think that that's huge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And especially in a school like ours where, one, obviously you don't have 4,000 students in a high school where you've got that. And number 2, community and that emphasis of, others first and what scripture teaches. I mean, those are all things where we have to consider, hey, listen, even in sport, the scripture of putting others before myself is, that's part of being coachable. This is not about me. It's not about my stats. It's not about me it's about our team being better. It's about, ultimately, prayerfully, we're in a world that's hard, but man, God, I want you to get glory through the successes we have. So I think that's great. And I think it's great advice if you're a parent who might be listening, thinking, man, I want a coachable kid. Well, it's not always what the world's saying is coachable. Listen to, our coaches here, what Coach Chancy just said. So I'm gonna bring up something, which is part of the reason I was like, one, you're coming off your second state championship, which, great to have, one a few years ago, then to get another, and then boom, back to back. That's not easy to do. You've done it. So I was like, well, we gotta showcase that. But then, one of the things early on, again, having a, daughter who played for you, but I just love volleyball. We've always loved it. We watch it. I watch it at home now. I'm watching the national champion. I'm just watching on ESPN Plus. It's just tons of fun to watch. So I remember early on going to the games and I played sports growing up. I went to public school though. So we were just about like, let's win. Let's just, play however you need to play to win. And so early on, I think probably the very first game I maybe ever saw varsity. My daughter wasn't playing for you at the time. We just were watching varsity volleyball because we loved it. And I'm not going to go into the rules of volleyball, but of course, for those that might know, of a ball that's hit, and of course, if a ball's hit and it's out of bounds, of course, it's a point, side out. unless a player blocking on our side touches the ball. And again, maybe you can explain it better, but here's the reality of it. In a game like volleyball, it's fast moving. Volleyballs are hit extremely fast and hard, oftentimes making imperceivable contact almost with fingertips, and to where an official will call a ball out, a line judge will call it out. We stand to gain a point unless the ball was touched and someone saw it touched. If no one saw it touched, point us. Yay, us. You had something really early on. What was the kind of the thing you started? I don't know if it's at the beginning, but very early on in your coaching career, you said, guys, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to let you explain kind of what that went like in your practices, how you kind of explain this to the girls and the purpose behind it.
Okay. So it's sort of like the gentleman's rule, they call it, in a lot of, if you play tennis as an adult or some other sports, you want to call things fairly in, out. And so in volleyball, like Mr. Kyle was just saying, a lot of times what happens is the ball is hit so fast that no one can tell if the blockers touched it, or only the players on the actual court can tell. And so what is commonly taught is that if you touch it and no one sees it, you should not make eye contact with the ref. You should not make any expression on your face. You let the ref decide. If the other girls are screaming, you touched it, you just, stay neutral. But that's dishonest, because if you touched the ball, you touched it, and it should be the other team's point. So I remember early in my career, there was sort of this movement petition that some coaches were trying to get around this area, just to say, hey, let's just all be honest. Let's all agree to sort of sign our names to this, that our players are going to be honest. And I was so intrigued by that, because it's always been something that bothers me in volleyball, especially from a coach. Like, am I supposed to be teaching my girls to lie when they know they did something? And that just never sat well with me. So that kind of went around some of the schools for a while and then sort of fizzled out, but it has not fizzled out here. Every practice, every game, the girls know it's the expectation. And we really have tried making it from varsity down through middle school. When we get new coaches, we expect them to jump on board as well, that if they know they touched a ball, if they know for a fact it touched their fingernail even, they immediately should turn to the ref and just say, yes, I touched it. And so it definitely happens. Not every game, but almost every game.
Almost
Really?
every game. I've seen a lot of volleyball, and almost every game where we touch it. And there are games, I'm gonna be honest, Selena, I've stood up in the bleachers. I was like, I didn't see it. We didn't really have to call that.
Right.
And that's the flesh because of course, again, I'll explain that you're giving a point to the other team, and as often as that happens, you're just essentially saying, here's a point that they've officially technically earned.
Yeah.
But the officials didn't see it. It's like, nobody saw it. Did it really happen? Well, the girl knows it, and it's just about integrity.
Yes.
It's integrity at a really, really, really next level, because it's just something I can say honestly after watching it happens a lot when we play other teams. We all know they've touched it.
Yep.
They know they've touched it. They glance up at the official. It's not, and I'll even say this, and you treat it as, you know what, I'm going to say it. Hey, they touched it. The official's like, I didn't see it. You kind of like, girls, then play on. It is what it is, and we're not always going to get the same kind of, integrity reciprocated, but you can't worry about that. It's about doing what's right, regardless of the outcome. Yeah. To me, that's such a, it's a powerful lesson in just life in general that I hope, no doubt, our girls are gaining this whole, coaches telling us that, we're gonna fess up to it. And what's been interesting is it becomes habit. I just see the girls instantly just raise their hand, like I touched it. They don't even wait. They don't look over at you like, Coach, should I? Shouldn't
Is this the
I?
time? Yeah.
Yeah. What about now? It's just they just do it.
So they know exactly what to say or do.
Yep. They just immediately turn and tell the ref. In fact, one of the cool moments in the state championship match, it happened. And it's great because I don't have to question it either, because that's uncomfortable when I'm like, are you sure you didn't touch that? And I just trust my girls completely now because of it. Because if they say they didn't touch it, I believe them because they always say if they do. And so I actually was listening to kind of the audio from the state championship the weekend after, and there was a moment that we touched a ball. The refs didn't see it. I don't think anyone saw it except the girl who touched it and the girl who hit the ball on the other team, because of course she's up there and can see it. And the refs were just ignoring the other team as they were screaming, touch, touch, touch. And the announcers, the broadcasters actually said it was hard to tell if they touched it, but the other team seems very confident. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, wait, look at Coach Chancy over there and look at the Mount Perrin players. They're saying, no, we touched it. And they were commenting how great it is to see that because you never see that in volleyball. And it's almost fun for me to see new refs who don't know us yet, the look on their face when we are saying, yeah, we touched it. They're like, are you admitting to this?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you really giving them the point? But the refs that know us and know that we do it on the other side, what's great is they trust us.
Yeah.
They trust that if we're saying no touch, we didn't touch it, and they don't even give the other coach or team a moment of discussion because they just know we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's the kind of reward. I mean, there's the consequence for that, but man, the earned trust, the life lessons. And to me, when we consider what we do at Mount Perrin being more than just sport and a state championship, and if you're part of these programs, you're getting next level everything, but you're also just getting infused into that lessons about straight from scripture, about just life that I take with me and say, hey, one of the things Coach Chancy taught me at being a part of this Mount Perrin Christian volleyball team was, man, you do what's right, even when you're not benefiting from it, when you don't get the points, when you don't get that's something you take with you and say, it's just about being, and not only that, we've got little volleyball coaches in training that no doubt some of these girls will go on to say, you know what was really powerful for me that I'm going to do with my team is the thing that I learned early on from Coach Chancy, right is right, even when it doesn't, it doesn't help me. And to me, state championships or not, that's to me what it's about when these kids walk out in this place. That's what they're experiencing here. And that's what they're a part of. And I think they get that, among other things.
And can I just comment? What's great too is that they get both. It's not like this is preventing us from winning state championships. We are able to have integrity, to be honest, to lose a few points here or there, and still win the state championships. And I think that makes the feeling of it even better.
Yeah.
Because they know they earned it and there wasn't any sort of manipulating or sneaking around it.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
In other schools cheating, they're not winning. No, I'm just kidding. I have no evidence of any schools cheating.
You do have to give yourself some props though, because your reaction to how they are helps them to know, like, you do need to come clean. Because if you would have said, hey guys, we're going to do this, but then if they did it and then you had a terrible reaction to it, now we're getting mixed messages, now we're getting mixed signals, but it just really shows them not only the integrity part, but just the part of like, when I do something wrong, I need to say something.
Yeah.
And I need to say it immediately. I don't need to wait and fester and then let stuff happen for good, and then to come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
So that is a bigger, I think, it goes beyond just the integrity part and showing people that you really can be grace-filled as a coach, that you're not going to get yelled at for.
Well, and several years ago, I remember the cheer team had sort of this motto of the audience of one. And I'd kind of heard that before, but that was the first time I remember really hearing it and kind of exploring what does that mean to have the audience of one, to truly be doing this for God. How do we tangibly do that when we have this huge crowd, when we know that, we our human selves want it for us? And I think that's part of what I say with this integrity part. That's part of doing that is if we care the most about how God is going to respond to what we're doing on the court, well, how is he going to respond if we're lying about that point? If everyone in the stands is like, why did you call that? Well, who cares? If you know that God is going to be like, good job, way to be honest, way to do what's tough. Yeah. It helps you just to move on from it and focus on the next point.
Yeah. Full transparency. I think I I was one of those parents saying, "Why did you call?" No, I may have thought it. The Lord knows it, so I feel like I need to confess that here. But let me just, the whole kind of crux of us wanting to bring you on was to say, hey, we're proud of our team and our programs, not just because of the win, because honestly, I don't know, it's great that we love the success and the great things that but for me, it's and again, our girls aren't perfect. We don't have expectations of perfection here. None of us are perfect, but it's about them understanding, girls, this is more than volleyball. It's more than rings. It's more than, there's so much life we're learning through the lens of scripture. And that's what I love about sport too, of what it teaches us and shows us. And so that's really what, this time is about. So, if people are listening, I'm going to go, oh man, like volleyball at Mount Perrin is awesome and it's great and it's super talented. Really is. But even more than that, I want my daughter a part of something like that. That's where I want, I want to bring him to the stands. If my daughter doesn't play or my son doesn't play, I want to bring him to the stands to watch that. So what happens is they see what they did there, see what we're learning when we sit in the stands or when we're part of a community like that. And I think I say kudos to you, to your you have to have that kind of integrity also. And so to me, that's what it's all about.
I would agree.
For sure. So any last parting, we're gonna wrap up with you, Selena, and any kind of last things you want to share? Like, hey, if I was going to share one thing to 7 people who might be listening right now, I hope it's way more than 7, because I have 7 people in my own close community that are going to be listening to this. But I think with you as a guest, we're gonna build you want to say a part of that.
I just think, again, it's so hard sometimes to do things the right way, the way that we are taught in scripture and biblically, because the world is so against it. Mm-hmm. And even something as small as sports. I know my girls tell me often it's difficult to transition from club to here sometimes because it's just not the same mindset. But I think what they carry over often is that they feel a lot better doing it the right way and their spirits are settled. And I think it does. We can do all the devotions and all the prayers we want, but the living it out is what I think they really carry over and really, like you said earlier, like they can think about that later in life and be like, I want to do this the right way. I want to have integrity. I want to do it for God watching, because I know at the end of the day that that's what really matters.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Isn't that great?
Yeah,
that is. Well, we've had 3-time state champ Coach Selena Chancy with us. Selena, thank you for being here. Look forward to, after you win your 3rd or 4th one and subsequent ones, we'll bring you back on for new lessons we might learn. But Selena, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for coaching the way that you do. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of From the Mount.